Last month, Donald Trump unveiled a bold vision, a Riviera in the Middle East, a plan to turn Gaza into a luxurious seaside resort, complete with a Trump Tower and panoramic sea views. The plan was controversial. It was, in fact, explosive, because Trump did not just want to rebuild Gaza, he wanted to throw out the Palestinians, to relocate them to some other place. The plan was DOA, dead on arrival, but there was no alternative until yesterday. On Tuesday, Arab leaders met in Egypt. They held an Arab League emergency summit and came up with a counter plan. The meeting lasted for many hours. At the end of it, they proposed a $53 billion plan to rebuild Gaza. So what is this plan? How much time will it take? Who will oversee the reconstruction? And will Israel and Hamas agree to it? First, let's look at the plan. It was proposed by Egypt with a 91-page blueprint called Gaza 2030. The document contained glossy images of picturesque neighborhoods, shopping malls, convention centers, and even an airport. The idea was to rebuild Gaza and open it up to the world to make use of its Mediterranean coast.
Egypt calls for the adoption of this plan at our summit today and the mobilization of regional and international support for it is a plan that preserves the Palestinian people's right to rebuild their homeland and ensures that they remain on their land.
Well, this is what Gaza looks like today, and this is what the Arab world wants to turn it into. But this journey from the vision to reality won't be easy. Egypt has laid out 3 stages of this plan. The first is the immediate measures, which could span over 6 months. This includes removing the rubble and mines, repairing the main highway, turning it into a reconstruction corridor, and then building temporary housing. There will be 7 such sites across Gaza to accommodate 1.5 million Gazans. Each housing unit will have 6 people. So that is phase number 1. Then we come to phase number 2, which could last for around 2 years. 200,000 permanent homes will be built during this time. Basic provisions will be restored like water, electricity, and waste management. Telecom services will be established, and that is phase number 2. Then there's phase number 3, which could take another 2 to 3 years. During this time, 200,000 more houses will be built. A 600-acre industrial zone will be developed. Other important construction includes a fishing port, a commercial seaport, a coastal road, and the Gaza International Airport. They plan to build all of this. The total time for this reconstruction is 5 to 6 years, all 3 phases combined, but it could take longer, maybe up to a decade. This is quite an ambitious plan. The total bill will be around $53 billion. $3 billion for phase 1, $20 billion for phase 2, and $30 billion for phase 3. Total $53 billion. And who will pay this money? Multiple players like donor countries, United Nations agencies, development banks, multinational companies, and investment funds. They will all pitch in. In addition to all of this, conferences will be held to raise more money. And who will oversee this reconstruction? An interim administration. That's what the plan says. It says Hamas will cede power in Gaza and a group of Palestinian independents will take over. They will rule Gaza during the reconstruction.
Egypt, in cooperation with its brothers in Palestine, worked to form an administrative committee of independent Palestinian professionals and technocrats entrusted with managing the Gaza Strip based on the expertise of its members.
Once it's done, the Palestinian Authority will take over. There is no mention of elections. The last polls in Gaza were held in the year 2006, so almost 20 years back. But Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas says that there could be an election next year.
We would like to emphasize that we are fully prepared to hold general presidential and legislative elections within the next year if the appropriate conditions are available in Gaza, the West Bank, and East Jerusalem.
So that's the administrative side. What about security? Well, that will be the responsibility of Egypt and Jordan. They will train Palestinian police. The plan also calls for external help, especially from the United Nations Security Council. There is also talk of deploying a peacekeeping force, especially during the rebuilding process. So that essentially is the Egyptian plan for Gaza. And the Arab world has endorsed it.
There will be no security or stability for Israel or the region without a political solution that fulfills the aspirations of the Palestinian people. The Palestinian people have the right to establish their independent state on all their territory.
It is a grand plan, but will Hamas and Israel agree to it? Hamas has welcomed the rebuilding efforts. It has agreed to an interim government. But Hamas has also drawn a red line, and that is disarmament. Hamas will not give up arms, and it's not clear if it will accept the return of the Palestinian Authority in Gaza. Which brings us to Israel. Israel has not rejected the Arab plan, but it's obviously more inclined to supporting Trump's plan.
President Trump presented a bold and innovative vision for the freedom of migration from Gaza, and this is a vision that can and should be supported. It must be supported. We fully support it, and this vision will allow a different future for the region.
Meanwhile, Washington too has rejected the Arab plan, saying it doesn't reflect the reality. So where does this leave Gaza? Two competing visions, one backed by the Arab world to rebuild and keep Gaza in Palestinian hands. The second, backed by Trump and Israel to settle Gazans elsewhere. Which one will prevail? And will Gaza ever see peace? We can only wait and watch.
Merci beaucoup. Hi, how are you?
Very well, thank you.
Thank you for being here.
Namaste, Mr. President.
Barat Kelogon, Komeri Namaste.
How many people generally follow you in interviews?
Typically in a month, we have viewers up to 150 million. That's more than twice the population of France. And in the last 2 years, we had 3 billion viewers. So I say, Laurent, this is your chance to be famous. You're on first post.